once again, we are finally getting around to getting started or restarted on Project 944. I've had this car for about 4 years now. A couple of years it through the timing belt, which it shouldn't have, because the previous owner had paperwork that it had its major service done, so it should not have gone. So I don't know if there was another problem or if they just fibbed to him and took his money, because that's a very expensive fix at a Porsche place. It's overall great shape, but it has bent valves. So that is what we're going to be doing. I'd already gotten started on some of the work. The reason that I know it's got vent valves is because when the timing belt went, I had hoped that the interference motor did not slap the valves, but the only way you can really do that is put the belts back on it and get it fired up and hope that you lucked out, which I didn't. Number 2 cylinder is dead. So I've got to pull intake manifold off, fuel injectors off. All of this has to come out. I've already got the belt off. I've already got everything lined up so that I should be able to put it back on, and I will recheck it, because I certainly don't want to go through this once again. And typical of early to mid 80s cars, it's got a bunch of hoses and vacuum lines and miscellaneous junk in the way. So I'm going to get started. I'm going to be pulling the cruise control. It had a locking hood on it, which has never worked since I've owned it, so that's going to go away. And that's where we're at. And I'm not going to bore you with the details of showing each bolt as I pull it off, but as I get along the way, I'll do a little more video, take a few more pictures, and we'll get this documented and get going on it. I want my baby back. It's been long enough. I'm also going to be taking some video as to where stuff goes, not only for your benefit but for my benefit. So I'm taking off the fuel pressure regulator vacuum lines and following it along, and it comes off the vacuum port of the throttle body, or not, as the case may be. Hold on. It's got multiple things going on here. What the heck? Well, it comes off up here as well as down there. So multiple locations for that. And this is that real brittle hard line, so I've got to be careful when I pull that out. This I tried. It's so brittle that it still broke. It's broke up right inside the thing here. So I'm going to be able to drill that out and get it out, but this rubber is really brittle too. I don't know if I want to do that or if I want to just start from scratch. Something for me to consider later. A bit on this is make sure that you disconnect the oil dipstick tube from the intake manifold. I've got the intake manifold loose, but it won't come yet, so got to pull that off. One up under here, right there. There's another bolt. Looks like it's about a 12 millimeter. I'll go grab a socket and get that one off, but you can't get it off with that there either. Bolt is off after pulling these 8 bolts. I've still got the gaskets there. I'm going to be replacing all of those, but the spaghetti continues. As I said, this is where your charcoal canister is for your emissions, which is way underneath the intake manifold, so you would have to replace the intake manifold or pull that off to get the charcoal canister, which would suck. Now, this is the hose that goes to that. It's cracked on this end, so I'm going to be, I doubt that I'm going to be using factory Porsche hoses on this, so I'm going to have to see what I'm going to come up with, because it's also cracked here. That's a water hose. This one looks like it might have been replaced, because this is just an L bracket, L angle. Look down here. Well, as a matter of fact, it broke already. This emissions line is already toast, and that was emissions line too. So I got to replace all of this. I may have to get creative with some L brackets or some elbow joints and stuff like that, but got to do it. Now the good news is there weren't any major oil leaks on this, so I'm not going to have to pull this motor further apart. I mean, yes, there is some oil and grease on it, but it wasn't much, and there are no drips. So now the injectors, I pulled them off as a rack, and it's a single needle injector, and I'm going to see if there's replacements for those, and I think there are. I'll probably replace those at the same time. Do quite a bit of do some upgrades on this while I'm at it. There's not a lot I can do with this system because it is an older, early Boschtronic fuel injection system, and the computers were rudimentary at best. There is a computer upgrade for this, but it's really expensive, so I may not bother. I may just put in the best injectors that I can find and not worry about adding extra pressure to it. Here's the bolt. I was able to get the thermostat housing off without breaking it. You can see the rust right here, and that had started to seize up almost inside the block, but it came loose. I just had to be really careful with it. I don't need to be adding to my misery. But here's where we are. The head is at least this side of the head is done. Intake manifold is pushed back. I will probably pull that all the way off, and I will probably hot tank the intake manifold and the head at the same time. Just take it down to a machine shop and get that done. I will probably put the valves in myself. I do have the valve pulling tool, or I may not, because I don't think I have a dial indicator anymore, and I would really need that so that I could check the valve stems. So it might be worth it to actually take this down. We'll see, depending on cost. It might be cheaper for me to buy the tools and do it than to have a shop do it, and then I'll have tools. I always like tools. All right, so trying to get some more stuff out of the way here. Out the manual, which I do have, it would appear that there are 3 bolts, maybe possibly 4. I haven't looked under the underside, holding this front distributor, or the front cover, onto the valve cover gasket, or the valve cover. That being said, I'm going to have to pull the rotor off. It's a little Allen screw there, but then I'm going to have to probably impact this nut off, and that shows my preload right there, but I'm going to have to impact this nut off so that I can get this gear off so I can get to the bolts behind it. So that's going to be my first difficult challenge, I think. The gear nut has a smaller bolt underneath it, so I'm going to take that off first, and I think that's been replaced with the wrong size bolt, because that is not metric. So I know it's been worked on before. Like I said, I had seen the work. It was not me who did the work. I am a Eurotech, so that helps me, but somebody didn't do the right work on this. Coaxing, I got finally got this little bolt out. Head starting to strip off on it too, so I'll get a replacement for that. But into my bag of nuts and bolts it goes. Well, on these bigger bolts you can use a SAE style. This is a 1 1/4 is a perfect fit for that, so that's what I'm going to use, and we'll see how that's going to work. All right then, it is late enough in the day that I am going to call it a day. I did make some good progress. Got the intake manifold off, and to the point where I'm going to try to get that one nut loose, but I'm going to do a little research first, make sure I don't screw something up, because that is on there really tight. I think I'm going to have to impact it, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, in the meantime, I'll be back. If you enjoy it all, if you want to follow what I do, follow me here, like me, Facebook, YouTube, and I'll see you in a couple days. Bye now.